Alright, I wanted to make this short video. I'm going to try to keep it short, 10 minutes or less, to talk about Darius, and more importantly, why Darius isn't overpowered. Now, the first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to preface this, and I'm going to say a champion can be nerfed and still be playable. Alright? Because if Darius does get nerfed in the future, he will still likely be playable. That's because League of Legends is imbalanced and not balanced, and generally the numbers are bigger than we make them out to be. For example, Irelia lost 40 damage on her E, which was enough to pretty much push her out of competitive play, but it wasn't enough to make her no longer viable in solo queue, because 40 damage on her E, when you're doing, 1,000 damage to kill someone early game, 2,000, 3,000 damage to kill them late game, 40 damage, even if you hit your E 2 or 3 times, that's 120 magic damage. You hit it 3 times, mitigated down by magic resist, she maybe lost 60 damage late game. Not that big of a deal. But, the game is balanced enough that it did pretty much push her out of competitive play, because every little bit counts. So, if at some point Darius does get nerfed in the future, if his Q loses 20 damage or 40 damage, he will still probably be playable in solo queue. It's not going to make him unviable. People still play Cho'Gath, for example. So, that's my preface. If people eventually try to come back to this video and be like, ha ha ha, you're wrong. Well, I mean, most champions are playable. There's very few champions that are just outright unplayable. And in fact, when you look at some champions like Ahri that can eat nerf after nerf, and let's just actually look here, and here's Ahri's win rate is a 52%. This is a champion that's been nerfed many times. All the Ahri players said, oh, she's unviable this time, and here we go. It's still the 14th highest win rate champion in the game. So, let's preface this. Let's find Darius first up. Now, this is na.op.gg. This is basically a very powerful stat tracking website that I use. And I tend to prefer it, even though I will use other websites, not to try to bias myself. But I will use other websites, but I'm primarily going to go on this website because it has last 7 days, which allows it to be past the nerfs. If I did last month, this would include a lot of phases of Darius, and you can see suddenly his win rate is skyrocketed, Garen's win rate is huge. But if I do last 7 days, I can see only the stats after he's been nerfed. I always had one a custom interface that could say last 10 days or something like that, but this is the best I've got. Alright, so let's go find Darius first off. Here he is. At 37 with a 51.2% win rate. Now, this win rate has gone up. I think it might settle on, it went, after the nerfs, it stayed, well, I should say pre-nerfs, because I've been keeping track of this because it amuses me. He went up to a 54%. So he went up, up, up. This is when he was really, really powerful last patch. He went up to 54%. Then he dropped back down to 53.5%. And I think that's largely because people... What's the right way to put this? People don't want to learn to fight Darius. This is the same thing Bard went through. You guys remember when everybody was permabanning Bard? And then people, eventually, but slowly, people were like, oh, okay, I know how to play against him. Well, that's kind of how people are with Darius. Eventually, you're going to have to play against Darius, and eventually, you're going to have to learn to play against him. And so his win rate will reach a peak when all the people who've learned to play him will learn to play him, but all the people who learn to play against him haven't learned to play against him yet. Because it's easier to learn a champion than to learn to play against him, because I can play 10 games of Darius in a row, but to play against Darius 10 times might take me a week. It took me a long time to figure out how to play against Darius, but once I figured it out, I've been, pretty solid. I don't really lose against him anymore. But, so here he is. Now, what does Darius have that would make him such a high ban rate? Because you can see, if we actually go to a different website, we can see his ban rate. There we go. Even on, so you can see even on this website, which is still using some older stats, it's still a high win rate. Or I should say, it's still not 52%. I mean, it's just, this is a good. I'm not saying Darius is a bad champion. I'm just saying he's really overrated right now. But you can see he's at a 90% win or ban rate. Now, what would make people want to ban a champion who really isn't that overpowered? Because even if we go on this website and we start comparing win rates on this website, you've got champions like, I'm just gonna assume these champions are low elo, low elo, low elo. You got champions like Soraka. Whenever I go a high elo support, maybe we're like, yeah, fucking ban Soraka. No question, no question. Champions like Malphite. Malphite is, in my opinion, one of the most difficult champions to deal with because you beat him in lane and then he just shits on the AD carry in the team fight. That's very frustrating for me. He's also fantastic at ganks. Practically every ult should basically be a kill. But, let's ignore Malphite. He is a little bit overstated because of low elo. To get Soraka here, who's another champion? Blitzcrank always maintains a high ban in pick rate. Or actually, his ban rate's pretty much gone. Huh, low elo, you stop banning. Got champions like Ari with absurd win rates for a champion like that. But anyway, my point is, why do people ban... Did I pass Darius? Oh, there he is. Okay, so why do people ban Darius over champions like Vayne, over champions like Soraka, over champions like Twisted Fate? I mean, have you actually seen? Like, here, let's actually... No, you know what? I'm not going to do that for now. I'll use that later. Why people ban him? That's because Darius, like Malphite, is very potent at large displays of power. So Darius can spend the entire game getting, kited, end the game 8-8, but on those 8 kills he got, everybody was like, wow, Darius is the most broken champion in the game. And that's why people ban him. When Malphite goes 8-8, people go, he lost lane, but then he comes back, If Darius goes 8-8, people lose their fucking minds. If Olaf goes 8-8, people go, you didn't do that good. And that's why people ban Darius. When Darius gets kills, he looks overpowered. Darius is... I want to call him a cheese champion, but he's not a cheese champion in, like, the pure term. Like, he's not like Heimerdinger. He's not like Malzahar. He's not a champion who's trying to do one goal, who, if that goal is broken, becomes useless. But on the other hand, Darius is clearly a champion who has very high highs and very low lows. When Darius is getting kited, he tends to just try to heal with his Q and run away. When Darius is murdering people, he tends to murder people. And so there's this mentality of every time somebody picks Darius, Darius gets 2 or 3 kills, and people say, oh my god, Darius is broken, you have to ban him. But then you look at champions like, let's find Riven here. You look at champions like Riven, and nobody really cares. So let me go into what I'm talking about here now, because you're looking at Riven and you're saying, wow, she's got a lower win rate than Darius. And this is what I'm talking about. People say, oh, but Riven is so balanced and Darius is at 90% ban rate and blah, 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 blah. Okay, now let's look at this for a second. I'm going to sort by play rate because when you start going at the bottom, you start getting, pretty absurd win rates here. Unless you're saying Malzahar is a broken tier champion, unless you're saying Amumu is almost unbeatable, unless you're saying Teemo is practically the most broken champion in the game, these win rates down here tend to mean little. Even Darius' 75 games, I mean, I don't know. I mean, but here at Master Tier, now I'm not going to use Challenger, because if we sort by win rate in Challenger, you can see the most you have is 120 games. I mean, all the win rates in Challenger are pretty fucked up. But let's go to Master, okay? Now, sorting by win, these are just 8 games, okay? Vayne has the most games played at Master, in addition to a 57% win rate. And she has more games than the second play champion by 80. She has 80 more games. She has 20% more games played than the number 2 champion, and yet she still maintains a 57% win rate. But people don't ban Vayne, because Vayne doesn't have large displays of power, she just kind of kills your team, And so people, now obviously Vayne's ban rate should be substantially higher. I think once you reach a point in Master Challenger where because there's a point in Master where it's just a bunch of Diamond players who've gotten out of Diamond, But once you get into Master Challenger, you start to see people that actually know what to ban. For example, a high most of the high elo support mains I play with will ban Vayne, ban Soraka. You know, you look at Soraka 57%, or sorry, 55, not 57, 55% win rate despite such a high pick rate. And then the other problem you're noticing, you're looking at, oh, but the AD carries, they have such a low win rate. The reason they have such a low win rate is because Vayne stole everybody's win rate with how broken she is. And yet nobody really wants to ban Vayne because she's just kind of, you just kind of win with Vayne, you know? You just kind of like ooze over the game and then you win. I guess that's the best way to put it. The game's just kind of, yeah, and then you got other champions. Here we go. Twisted Fate, Riven, Yasuo, Nidalee. These are champions with absurd win rates, okay? Janna. You know, these are champions with absurd win rates for how high pick they are. These are the top pick champions in Master. Okay, these aren't champions that people are just, picking, 4 or 5 times. Okay, these are the highest pick rate champions. But let's go down to Darius, okay? Where are you, Darius? Oh, I know where he is. He's right here. Darius has a 52% win rate. And then you can see right around him, you've got Hecarim with a 61% win rate. You know? Why is Darius so bad? And it truly is because he just looks so overpowered. He isn't very overpowered. Now, any champion above 50% win rate, you could make an argument is overpowered. So I guess I'll give you that, but I'm not going to agree with that argument. I think a large amount of it comes down to whether a champion is made for competitive play or whether a champion is made for casual play. Darius is clearly a competitive tiered champion. I don't think there's any argument to be made there. And I can actually make that argument. At Bronze, Darius has a 51% win rate. At Silver, Darius has a 51.23% win rate. At Gold, Darius has a 51.15% win rate. Do you notice something here? You notice how all these ELOs have a higher win rate than Bronze? And for the most part, his win rate actually goes up the higher pick you go. Doesn't go down, it actually goes up. You see that? You see how other than the slight mishap at Gold, going from Gold to Diamond, going from Bronze to Diamond, his win rate went up. And it's not like I've looked at these stats beforehand. I can just tell you this as a dude who's played Darius, that he is made for competitive game. He's the same as Ahri. You look at Ahri's win rate. She's down here. You look at Ahri's win rate. That's a fucking absurd 54%. You look at Malphite. Malphite was changed recently to make him a far more competitive pick. They wanted to make full tank Malphite more competitive. They definitely achieved that. Now, of course, you have some jokers up here, but for the most part, a champion that is made to be a competitive pick will be a competitive pick. I don't think there's an argument about that. And so they're not going to nerf Darius out of being a competitive pick. And no, he's not stomping Bronze. He actually does the worst at Bronze compared to other ELOs. And when we look at Bronze, we can see some worrying trends like Heimerdinger in the #1. Amumu. Garen? You guys are still losing? Okay, I'm going to tell you guys something right here. Garen is a shit laning phase. Murder him in the laning phase. Seriously, if you see them pick Garen, pick Olaf, and get level 2 and just run in his face, continue to throw axes, continue to hit him with ease. Max Q, build first item Black Cleaver, perma-slow him, murder the shit out of him. That's how you beat Garen. Pick Tom Kench, do the same thing. What is Tom Kench's win rate, I wonder? Wow, you guys blow dick with Tom Kench. What do you guys build on him? Like, Liadri's, Rylai's? I don't even know. Anyway, there's my argument here. I think I've made myself pretty clear. You can see, just to reiterate, there is a definite trend of the higher ELO you go, the higher Darius's win rate goes. I don't think it's an argument. Darius is a very hated champion. Even before his rework, he only had a 59% win rate, and he was still considered broken tier, and people banned him. With a 49. With a 49% win rate, he was still considered broken at low elo and banned with a 49% win rate. Now that wasn't a 49 across all elos, that was a 49 at bronze. At bronze, he had a 49% win rate. He wasn't even winning more than half his games at bronze. Appreciate that. This is a champion who people do not like. People do not like watching Darius. It makes them feel bad when they get dunked. I don't think there's an argument to be made about that. People just don't like being dunked. What's more is that you cannot argue that he is broken. You can't say, oh, but he's really broken at Master and Challenger. Maybe in competitive play where people can focus her better, but when you're looking at solo queue and Master, there's a clear winner. There are definitely a clear top lane winner here. If you're looking at lane by lane, Revan is far better top lane. There's no argument to be made. 5th highest pick rate and a 57% win rate. First highest pick rate, 57%. You look at champions like Twisted Fate, clearly the best mid laner right now for solo queue. 58% with the 6th highest pick rate. You got other champions like Yasuo, like Nidalee, like Soraka, who maintain absurdly large pick rates and yet maintain such a high win rate. And then you compare that down there to a champion like Darius, who can't even break into the high 50s. You're not even overpowered until you're the high 50s at Master, primarily for this reason, because you see Vayne is such a high win rate that it destroys other AD carries' win rates. Because other AD carries play against Vayne and they lose, and then Vayne maintains a high win rate and their win rate gets shredded. Tristana's not bad, Kalista's not bad, they're both top tier, in fact they're both likely a little bit overpowered. Even Lucian's a little bit overpowered right now, but because Vayne is so much better than them, it destroys, I mean look at this, you can see this, consistently, any high pick AD carry gets a low win rate because of Vayne. And you might be able to make the argument, okay? You might be able to say, okay, but doesn't Darius then have a low win rate because of Riven? Well, Riven doesn't have quite the pick rate Vayne does. In fact, she actually has half the pick rate. And in addition to that, you can see other top laners, let me find here, like Tahm Kench. Tahm Kench is wildly popular right now, who still maintain a high win rate. You know, does anybody want to nerf Tahm Kench? He's only 0.57 points behind Darius, and he maintains a much, much higher pick rate. You can see Darius, he has played 75 times. Tahm Kench, well, I actually consider Tahm Kench maybe not to be as good as Darius, but pretty much a... Tahm Kench is his own burdens, I guess I'll put it. He becomes very domineering in team fights, kind of like Darius, but the difference between Tahm Kench and Darius is that Tahm Kench can protect people, and if you get hit by his Q, you're not getting away from him. And then if he gets those 3 stacks on you, you get eaten and you lose like a third of your health. So Tahm Kench is very potent right now. In fact, I think we're going to see him at Worlds. I think Tahm Kench is going to be at Worlds. I think we're going to see a bunch of Riven. I've been talking to some people. Riven is being a very secret pick right now for obvious reasons. Now, it might be that, you know, competitively teams tend to play better against Riven, but... Oh, wow, my time is really running out. I'm on nearly 20 minutes now. Either way, point is, Darius' win rate goes up the higher elo you go. He's clearly a competitive champion. He's never not going to be a competitive champion. He's going to be the Ahri of top lane for the rest of our existence. People got over Ahri, they're going to get over Darius. There's no choice. Riot is not going to nerf him out of being competitive. When Riot wants a champion to be competitive, that champion will be competitive. And there is nothing you can do to stop it. Darius's ban rate is so high because his power spike makes him look overpowered, despite, you know, he does not maintain a broken win rate at any ELO. Even in Diamond, you know, and Diamond tends to be where cheesy champions would win. Even in Diamond, he's only at 38. He's champion number 38. Alright? He's lower than champions like Veigar. You get champions like Vayne. You know, look at Vayne's pick rate. Look at that thing. Champions like Pantheon, for Christ's sake. Malphite. You know, you want to start, if you want to say, oh, but Darius is overpowered because of his diamond pick rate. Here's a champion who's being played competitively. There's one check. Here's a champion who's dominating high elo. There's another check. And here's a champion who, despite a huge games or a huge play rate, Look at that play rate. He still maintains the fifth highest win rate. And so if you're gonna say, oh, but clearly Darius is, but here you go, right there. Malphite, there you go. You want to talk about games played? There you go. Highest pick rate, highest ban rate, or you shouldn't say ban rate. Highest pick rate, highest win rate. The master, nothing really to say there, man. So, now I'll go here and I will just show you that I am not being biased. Let's just refresh this. Let's go. Here's win percent. Let's go down. You can see Darius is at 45. In fact, you can actually see by their own website that he's actually going down. So all these people who use Champion GG, there you go. I guess we could do LOL King, even though it's a shitty website with shitty stat tracking. Where do I go here? Charts? Oh, yeah, there we go. Let's do ranked solo. Okay, I guess I don't know how to do this. Holy fucking shit. God, they need a nerf Vayne. Anyway, that's all I have to say.